Hello, my name is NAMIERATUL BINTI Muhammad Nasir. In this section, I will discuss the function of the eye as well as some of its structures. So, the eyes have two functions. One is receptor organ of sight, allowing you to see 200 degrees in all directions, including in front of you and to the sides. The second function is to receive images and transmit them to the brain, which takes in light from your surrounding. Now, let's look at the structure of the eyes. The structure of the eyes was divided into two parts: the AKMAR, which included the orbit, eye muscles, eyelids, eyelashes, conjunctiva, and lacrimal apparatus. Meanwhile, the other one is the eyeball, which includes the wall of the eyeball, segment of the eyeball, and structures of the retina. Next, I will tell the detail of the structure of eye. The first one is the orbit. What is exactly the orbit? The orbit is the bony cavity of skull that contains and protects the eyeball and associated muscle, blood vessel, and nerve. It was also called as eye socket. The orbit was including eyelid and bony all around the eyes. The muscles of the eyes are the second structure. There are 6 major eye muscles, which are superior rectus, lateral rectus, inferior rectus, medial rectus, superior oblique, and inferior oblique, as shown in the picture. These 6 muscles all work together to enable large eye movements. An angle that is slanted but not perpendicular or parallel is referred to as being oblique. Meanwhile, straight is to be rectus. Binocular vision takes place when the muscles in both eyes coordinate to allow for natural depth perception. The prefix BINT here means two. Q is the word root for eye, and R is the suffix for pertaining to. Lastly, with depth perception, you can perceive distant objects using your visual system. And perception because you can see things in 3 dimensions.
Hi, my name is ZULKIFLI and I will present for the next part. Eyelids is a movable tissue consisting of skin and muscle that shield and protects from foreign matter, excessive light, and injuries. It also provides the moist chamber essential for the normal functioning of the conjunctiva and cornea. The canthus is at the corner of the eye, where the upper and lower eyelids meet. It is the connection point of the upper and lower lid and the nasal bridge. Next, cilia. Cilia are small and hair-like structures making up eyebrows and eyelash, which play important roles in maintaining normal eye functions. Next, tarsus. What is tarsus? Tarsus are two thick and elongated plates of blunt connective tissue, a framework within the upper and lower eyelids, providing necessary stiffness and shape. The tarsus serve as the main structural component of the eyelids. We move to the next part, which is the conjunctiva. The conjunctiva of the eyes is a transparent mucous membrane lining the underside of the eyelid, protecting the exposed surface of the eyeball. It covers the inside of our eyelid and the white of our eyes. The conjunctiva also creates the mucous layer that form parts of our tears. It also prevents microbial entrance into the eye and plays a role in immune surveillance. It lines the inside of the eyelids and provides a covering for the sclera. For the next part, we will explore the lacrimal apparatus. Lacrimal apparatus is the medical name for our tear system. It is a group of glands, canal, sacs, and ducts that make new tears and drains all one's way. Each of our eyes has its own lacrimal apparatus. Our tear system is a complex network that lubricates and protects our eyes. In the lacrimal apparatus, there are 5 important components and carry out certain functions. The components of our tear system include lacrimal gland, lacrimal fluids, lacrimal canal, lacrimal sac, and lacrimal duct. Lacrimal glands are located on the underside of the upper eyelid, just above the outer corner of each eye. It makes the salty water that become our tears. Next, lacrimal fluids. Lacrimal fluids maintain moisture on the anterior surface of the eyeball. Third, the lacrimal canal. Lacrimal canal are ducts at the inner corner of each eye. It transmits tears from the surface of the eye to the nasal cavity. Tears enter the duct system and conduct to the canal within the eyelids. Then, the tears drain into the lacrimal sac. 4. The lacrimal sac. The lacrimal sac in the inside corner of our eyes collect tears that drain out of our eyes. They act like temporary storage for tears that have just left our eyes. They keep all tears from flooding our tears duct constantly. Lastly, the lacrimal duct. The lacrimal duct is a passageway that drains excess tears into the nose system. In other words, it carries tears from the lacrimal sac of the eye into the nose.
Hello and greetings. My name is AISYAH binti ABDUL JALIL and I will be explaining anatomy and physiology of an eyeball in detail. As you all can see, this picture right here is an anatomy of an eyeball. So, the walls of the eyeball are made of 3 layers, which are the sclera, choroid and retina. Firstly, the sclera, which you can see in picture here on the right side on the most top layer, are also known as the white of the eye. Sclera maintains the shape of the eye and protects the delicate inner layers of tissue. This tough, fibrous tissue forms the outer layer of the eye, except for the part covered by the cornea. To be noted, the combining form sclero means the white of the eye and it is also means heart. Next, we got here on the next layer of the sclera, there's choroid, also known as the choroid coat. It's the opaque middle layer of the eyeball that contains many blood vessels and provides the blood supply for the entire eye. Opaque in here means that light cannot pass through this substance. Lastly, the first layer in the eyeball is retina. This part is the most sensitive inner layer that lines the posterior segment of the eye. The retina receives nerve impulses and transmits them to the brain via the optic nerve. This is also known as the second cranial nerve. Next, I will be explaining about the segment that contain in the eyeball. Firstly, segment of the eyeball are basically the interior of the eyeball, which divided into 2, the anterior and posterior segments. On the anterior segments of the eye makes up the front side of 1/3 of the eyeball. This segment is divided into anterior and posterior chambers. The anterior chamber is located behind the cornea and in front of the iris, while the posterior chamber is located behind the iris and in front of the ligaments that holding the lens in place. For your information, posterior chamber and posterior segments are 2 different things. Next, on the anterior segment, there are aqueous humor, which is also known as aqueous fluid, who fills both of these chambers. The term aqueous basically means watery or containing water. As used here, the term humor describes any clear body liquid or semi-fluid substance. The aqueous humor helps the eye maintain its shape and nourish the intraocular structures. This fluid is constantly filtered and drained through the trabecular meshwork and the canal of Schlemm. After that, there is intraocular pressure, IOP, which is a measurement of the fluid pressure inside the eye. This pressure is regulated by the rate at which aqueous humor enters and leave the eye. Last but not least, the posterior segment. The posterior segment makes up the two remaining thirds of the eyeball, which located on the backside of the eyeball or in detail behind the iris and in front of the ligament that holding the lens, which plays in line with the retina and filled with vitreous humor. This is also known as vitreous gel, which is a soft, clear, jelly-like mass that contains millions of fine fibers. These fibers, which are attached to the surface of the retina, help the eye to maintain its shape.
The retina is the sensitive innermost layer that lines the posterior segment of the eye. Laying at the back of your eyes, retina receive images that have passed through lens. It composed of several layers of cells called photoreceptor. Two types of photoreceptor cells in the human eye are rods and cones. Rods process black and white, whereas cones process colors. These cells turn images into dove impulses that send to the brain through the optic nerve. Optic nerve, the nerve impulses formed by the retina travel along the optic nerve to the brain. Basically, the optic nerve is a path that connects the eye and the brain. The center of the retina is marked by an area known as the macula, also known as macula lutea. The term macula means a small spot. It is yellowish in color, highly pigmented, and responsible for sharp central vision. The macula contains a depression called the fovea centralis, which has a high concentration of cones, which are the light-sensitive receptor cells which function best in brightly lit conditions and are responsible for high acuity color vision. The area that the optic nerve enters the retina is known as the optic disc. It contains no photoreceptors and is therefore referred to as the blind spot of the retina. The uvea is the pigmented layer of the eye. It has a rich blood supply and consists of the choroid, ciliary body, and iris. The ciliary body is the broad ring-shaped band of thin muscle fibers which plays a very active and vital role in the vision adjustment of the eye. A set of muscles and suspensory ligaments in ciliary body adjust the thickness of the lens to refine the focus of light rays on the retina, and also produce the aqueous humor that fills the anterior segment of the eye. To focus on nearby objects, this muscle adjusts the lens to make it thicker, and to focus on distant objects, this muscle stretches the lens so it is thinner.
My name is Noala binti Haron. Let's jump into the topic. The iris. The iris is the color tissue at the center of the pupil, which can be seen in front of the eyes. The function of it is to regulate the amount of light reaching retina. Under this iris, we can divide by two, which anterior and posterior chambers, whereby has been discussed in detail by AISYAH ALYA before. The cornea is the transparent outer surface of the eye that covering the iris and pupil. It is the primary structure of focusing on the light ray from entering the eyes. However, the pupil is the black circular opening in the center of the iris that permits the light to enter the eyes. Last but not least is a lens. Lens basically is a clear disc that focuses light as in a camera or microscope. In the eye, the lens is a clear curved structure at the front of the eye behind the pupil. Let's move to the normal action of the eyes. First, we have accommodations. It is the process whereby the eyes make adjustment for seeing objects at various distance. Here at the slide, I have included the picture of accommodations process. This process is achieved by the lens changing its shape. In addition, it is the process of adjusting the focal length of a lens. Next, we move to the convergence. Convergence is the way our eyes move together and point inward when we look at the near object. This occurs in an effort to maintain a single binocular vision as an object comes nearer. Emmetropia is the normal relationship between the refractive power of the eyes and the shape of the eye that enable light rays to focus correctly on the retina. Also, the refractions is the ability of bending the light ray as they pass through one object to another. The cornea and lens bend, which is the process of a refract light ray to focus it on the retina. When the shape of the eye changes, it also changes the way the light ray bends and focus. Also, they might cause blurry visions. Last but not least, we have the visual acuity, which is the ability to distinguish object details and shape distance. However, the acuity can be stated as a sharpness.